So hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hart and today we're doing our first workout in our postnatal recovery program. This workout only requires the use of a chair. You don't need any form of resistance. We're not doing any weights, no dumbbells, no resistance bands, no water bottles. It is just looking at some key recovery moves. We're going to break it down into 4 separate sections. So the first bit we're going to do is some core recovery and really focusing on this core section. Then we're going to be moving into some light stretches, then going on to some shoulder work, and then looking finally at our lower body region. The reason for this is that we're going to be focusing on areas of your body that have been really affected during your pregnancy, like the shoulder girdle, the pelvic region, and our core. So the first thing we're going to get started with is just trying to re-engage our core and recover that core area. So we're going to sit on a chair, just like this. So firstly, make sure that the chair you're sitting in allows you to plant your feet flat on the ground, that we're not raised on the balls of our feet. And what I want you to do is place your hands either side of your rib cage. We're going to really focus on our breathing and trying to re-engage everything that's in this section of our body. So what I want you to do is to do an inhale. Now remember, when we are inhaling, we're trying to fill out this belly space. So imagine that you've got a bowling ball that is dropping into your belly, and then we're going to expand that region rather than trying to expand your ribcage area, which is actually a less beneficial way of breathing. So the first thing I want you to do is inhale, let that space fill your belly region, and then as you exhale, draw that navel in. Now if you've had a C-section like myself, even doing this sort of exercise may feel either a challenge or something quite daunting because you're doing something that affects the region near your scar incision. So please make sure that you do this at your own pace and at a comfortable level for yourself. So we're going to do another couple of these. Last one. Lovely. Now make sure that you don't need to hold your breath too long on either the inhale or the exhale. Try and keep it as natural as possible. Next, what we're going to do is as we breathe in, we're going to just try and contract it a little bit more and also engage that pelvic floor. Now for a lot of people, you may have had pelvic floor dysfunction. So what I want you to do is really focus on drawing in at 12 and 6 and 3 and 9. So you're trying to lift and engage the whole pelvic floor. We're not just trying to grab the front, we're not trying to just hold in the urine, we're trying to stop movement in both the bowels and the urine and trying to connect our pelvic bones on the sides and bring it all in together. So we're going to inhale, and then on the exhale, remember you're breathing everything up and in. And again. Last one. So that takes some practice, and just make sure that when you're doing your PFA, so when you're doing your pelvic floor activations, that you are trying to draw in at all points, and that it will take some time. It may feel a bit weird, especially if you didn't do it prenatally, but if you have, you should be able to connect those points a little bit easier. If you have had a vaginal birth or if you've had a C-section, it still will take time to reconnect because you're trying to get your mind to reconnect with parts of your body that have had a lot of trauma go through them. So now we're going to go down onto the floor and we're going to do some stretches just to activate key areas that may have been affected during pregnancy. Okay, so we're now in the stretching phase of the workout. So what I want you to do is to get into one of my favourite stretches, and that's cat-cow. This will really help you, particularly those of you that have had a C-section, to re-engage that area of the core that has been traumatised. So we're going to place our hands shoulder width apart, knees shoulder width apart, and we're just going to raise up into that cat position and then lower down into cow. As you come up, really focus on arching that back. We're drawing everything in. You can even do your pelvic floor activations as you're doing this move. So as we are going into cat, imagine that you are bringing that pelvic floor in, and on cow you can release. Bring it in for cat, and out for cow. Now, similar to prenatal, depending on how you feel, you may be able to drop further into cow, or you may find that area quite tight still. If the area is quite tight, go to a range where you feel comfortable, but not where you feel like you are pushing yourself too much. Remember, this is your first postnatal workout, so you don't want to overdo it. We'll do a couple more. And last one. Okay, and now we're going to come into a hip flexor stretch. So we're going to place one foot in front of the other. Make sure you've got that foot planted firmly into the ground. And what you want to do is imagine that your bum is being tucked underneath. So you're tucking your tailbone in. We're trying to keep nice, good stability. If this is really difficult because you may have compromised stability, just hold onto the wall if you have one next to you. Keep that tailbone tucked under, keep it nice and engaged. And what you should do is you should feel your hip flexors, so just here, particularly on the right side for this one obviously, you should feel the tension. If it feels really tight, obviously you're doing the stretch, and you should try, if you can, just push it forward a bit. See if you can increase that range of motion. But for now we're just going to do a nice simple one. Coming down, nice and slowly, remember nothing too fast. Go back onto the other side, tuck that tailbone under, and we're pushing our forwards. Again, this is a great one for people that have had C-sections. A lot of my workouts are going to be C-section based because I had a C-section. But there will be tips for vaginal birth recovery as well. Okay, one more on each side. Now remember that during pregnancy we have that horrible anterior pelvic tilt because of the shift in your weight, and also because our belly is going up and our centre of gravity has changed. So you will find that you will have tight hip flexors naturally to a certain degree because you have had that anterior pelvic tilt. And then coming back down, last one. Remember that key point really is to tuck that tailbone in. The more you tuck your tailbone in to try and keep that neutral alignment, you should have a lovely connection between your shoulder, your hip and your knee. And coming down. The last one we're going to do is another stretch that is great for people that have had C-sections, and that's the frog stretch. So I want you to come into cat-cow, widen your legs ever so slightly. Now this will feel a bit scary for some people that have had a C-section, but only go to the level that you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, try and keep yourself at an elevated height. If you feel ready, what I want you to do is place your elbows on the floor, and we're just going to stretch back and then forward. Again, if you've had a C-section like myself, only go as comfortable as you feel. Remember as well that relaxing plays a part in your postnatal journey. Most people have relaxing in their bodies for 6 to 8 months postpartum. If you are breastfeeding, if you continue to breastfeed for more than the 8 months, so if you're breastfeeding for a couple of years, you will have relaxing in your body to some degree. So that will play a part and a role in the moves that you're doing and how safely you can do them. So slight rocks, nothing too much. The whole time, try and make sure that we're not just letting the belly drop as well. So similar to your prenatal journey, make sure that you're trying to engage that core by just supporting your belly. We don't want to increase the diastasis recti. Okay, and then we're going to come nice and slowly. Bring those legs in together, and that's the stretching section done. So now we're going to work on some shoulders. So now we're going to do some shoulder work. You can use a chair if you want for assistance. You shouldn't need it too much, we are just working the shoulder girdle, so this section here, but you may feel like you need it just for some added support. Now, why are we focusing on this area of the body? Well, when we're feeding, whether it's breastfeeding or formula feeding, you may find yourself rounding over as we feed the baby. If you're picking them out of the cot, again, your shoulders will naturally round. Prenatally, the shift in our shoulders coming forward happens as a consequence of our breasts enlarging. So there's a number of factors that will come into play when it comes to having your round shoulders. So doing these exercises will help to open up that shoulder girdle and hopefully prevent that round shouldered nature. So the first thing we're going to do is mobilise the shoulders. So we're going to bring our arms up to the side and bring them back down. Nothing too exhaustive, we're not trying to do our marathon just yet. Now as we continue to do this, see how far up you can get. Now if you've had a C-section, again I'm going to be referring to a C-section quite a bit, but if you've had a C-section, sometimes anything that involves moving up can put a bit of pressure on here. You may feel a bit scared because you are essentially extending that section. So if you are doing it, you can place a hand to support your C-section scar, or you can just reduce that range of motion to which you are reaching up. If you feel like this is actually recovered quite well, or if you feel a bit more mobilised, you can reach your arm all the way up. Okay, and now we're going to do the other side. So if you don't need the chair, if you felt that that was actually comfortable enough, which I did, I'm not going to require the use of a chair for this side, so I'm just going to mobilise up and down, check on my scar a little bit, just as I'm doing it on this side without support. And when I start to feel more confident, I can let go and reach a little bit higher. Perfect. So what I want you to do now is we're going to place both arms, we're going to reach them in a front raise, we're going to turn them up for a Cuban rotation, and we're going to do some snow angels. Now everything we do, we're trying to connect in the slowest way possible, so we're not trying to run around and reach our arms in all sorts of weird angles. You may find that this is weird because when you're carrying a baby around or when you're moving around with your child in general, you're not thinking about each connected point. But when we're focusing on exercise, actually doing this will help us in the long run, and it will help us with our baby, and it will help us with ourselves. So we're just looking with the snow angel. I'll do it from a side position for yourself. You can see that I'm trying to contract and bring my elbows down to my sides, but as I'm doing so, they're slightly behind my back. Not massively, but just so that we can feel the stretch here, and you might feel the stretch. Coming back to the front. Now, if you're carrying a baby a lot of the time, this may feel quite exhausting quite quickly, so you might feel the burn in your biceps or in your shoulder region. So we're going to just place our hands onto our shoulders and roll the shoulders, just loosen it up again. We don't want to get anything too tired out because we still have got to look after a baby. And roll them forward. And the next thing I want you to do is we're going to bring our arms out to the side and cross in front and out to the side. Now as we bring them out to the side, imagine that you've got a pencil that you're trying to catch between your shoulder blades. And again, this is the perfect time to really focus on engaging the core. So as you come out, breathe in. In, you come in, inhale. If that's quite a lot of to think about, then obviously just focus on the arms and try and engage that pelvic floor as much as you can. You will have all day to do pelvic floor and core activation as well. Now we're going to just lower those arms down because if you're like me, they're probably feeling a little bit painful. We're just going to place our arms here against the wall. So if you have a wall, great. If you don't, you can just place them again like we've done before. And what I want you to do is actually sink yourself a little bit lower. And we're just going to try and plant the base of our spine into the wall. So we're trying to neutralise that alignment for ourselves. Hold it for a couple more seconds. And now what I want you to do is to push up the wall and down. We're trying to keep our arms connected with the wall, because then we know that we're pushing into the wall and that our shoulders are not coming forward. And if you can, start making more of a circle. And lovely. Lower down, raise back up nice and slowly. And the last thing we're going to do is going to use a chair. And we're just going to be focusing on our lower body with some bilateral movements. So we're not trying to isolate any parts of the body at the moment. We're just going to do a simple chair get up. So what I want you to do is at the front of your chair, I'm going to do it from the side and front view for you, is you're going to lower into your chair first. And we're going to see if we can get up from the chair without using the arms, if you have arms, or the side of the chair for support. Now, this is really important because obviously a lot of the time we are carrying our child, and getting out of the chair you might compromise your stability by leaning on the side or like swinging around and actually disassociating either the hips from your core or using more of a unilateral movement which can actually destabilise you. So we're going to get up from the chair and come back down. If you want, imagine you've got a baby in your arms and see if that has any impact on getting up or lowering down. As you're doing the get up, similar to when you do a normal squat, you want to make sure that at the end of the movement you're just tightening that pelvic region. And as you go down, take your time if you need to and sink that body down. Remember, we're pushing the hips back, so we're almost doing like a hip hinge to get into the chair get up. I'm just going to do it from the front for you. So we're keeping our feet about shoulder width apart. So we're looking like we're doing a squat, but we've just got the added support of the chair. So the moves in this recovery program are all looking at moves that we may be doing with our baby through the first few months of their life or first weeks of their life. And trying just to help you to do those moves successfully. Last one. Perfect. Okay. And that's it for today's workout. It was really nothing too much. We're just focusing on re-engaging that core. We then moved on to some light stretches. Then we did some work on our shoulders and then some basic work on our lower body. Next week we'll be showing you some more moves that you can incorporate into your workout. I'll be doing this workout another 2 times during my week, so hopefully you can do them 2 in your own time. Make sure if you like this video that you do give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again in another workout. Bye for now.
Lady, took me down to where I've been lately. Yeah, her love can make a person hazy. Praying she won't break me down, 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 down. She makes me crazy.